Rochelle Bush is the owner and primary guide of Tubman Tours Canada, a proud descendant of freedom seekers. She was born and raised in St. Catharines, where her deep-rooted connection to the community continues to shape her work. Last week, in honor of International Women's Day, Rochelle received an award from the Women in Niagara and the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce for her ability to empower individuals and organizations to take bold steps towards a more equitable future. Rochelle is here with me today. Congratulations on your latest awards, Rochelle.
Oh, thank you, Kate.
And why don't we get right into it and tell me a little bit about some of the incredible highlights. So, for one example, was leading the 2021 initiative to rename a public park in St. Catharines in honor of Richard Pierpoint.
Yes, so I enjoyed doing that very much for the Salem Chapel. When Richard Pierpoint was the first black person to settle in St. Catharines, and he's a true son of Africa, so he was part of the slave trade. So that's why I felt that it was important to recognize him in St. Catharines.
And what has the response been from that?
Oh, very positive.
Excellent.
Yes.
And just tell me a little bit more about it.
About Pierpoint and his park? So Pierpoint is the most famous black loyalist worldwide, without question. So the Canadian Embassy in Senegal is named after him, and our federal RCMP building in Ontario is named after Richard Pierpoint. But what's most important about him is at the age of 68, he took up arms to fight during the War of 1812 because he wanted to secure his freedom, of course. If the Americans had won, he would have been enslaved. And of course, he wanted to pay tribute to the homeland, which was this British colony.
Okay. Now, you continue to be a leading voice in Black history preservation. Was this a difficult process when you first started the journey?
For tourism and helping with the development, yes and no. So there was a void. There was no historian at the Salem Chapel. She had died 2 years earlier before I came on board. So her name was Helen Nicholson Smith. So it was difficult trying to find my way because I'm going to be truthful, Kate. I didn't know the history of my own backyard. I knew some of it, but I was more trained up in Toronto because that's where I really began.
And do you find that is often the case, where people don't necessarily know the history?
Oh, absolutely. You can find half the population in St. Catharines now that are not familiar with the history of the church or Harriet Tubman.
And so what would you say to those people?
Oh, absolutely. Come and visit the church. But the reason why a lot of them aren't interested is because a lot of people are not interested in history itself. It depends on how it's conveyed to individuals. So if it's a boring lecture, they're not interested. But if it's storytelling, then they're interested. So yes, I would invite them all. So we run open houses 3 times a year.
And as we continue to celebrate International Women's Day, which I would like to think we can celebrate it every day, all day, and we recognize female leaders, how would you say that you go about empowering yourself and other women around you?
Oh, trying to stay positive, of course, and using my voice to help others, to try to uplift them and, always trying to lend a helping hand to other women so that they're uplifted and they can shine.
And so to ensure the legacy of Harriet Tubman and other freedom seekers remain an integral part of Canada's historical narrative, what do you have coming up in terms of the Tubman Tours?
So for this year, I'm trying to, it's time sensitive, of course, and you have to have the time to do it. I want to roll out 2 tourism books that will not only help the local community if they want to know more about the history, but to help those visitors that are arriving.
And do you feel that there's a need for something like that?
Yes, because there's no little tourism booklets out there with regards to Black history. For some reason, scholars have overlooked Niagara, but it's just been within the past 5 years that they're starting to look at it. So they've published about other areas in southwestern Ontario, but nobody's ever concentrated on Niagara. So fingers crossed, hopefully they will start doing that.
Well, hopefully. And what would be, your wish for the Niagara region in terms of these tours or education in Black history?
That we reign supreme and we're number one, that we're known for that.
And what do you think will take to get us there?
Scholars acknowledging where freedom seekers settled in Niagara, especially Harriet Tubman, because most of the American scholars still write that she went to Canada and they don't state the location, or they'll write that she went north and they'll leave it in the USA.
Okay. And so what about in Canada? Do you think there's enough education there surrounding, that individual topic?
Well, it's going to change for elementary school students this coming September.
Okay.
So in 2025, Black history and, of course, the Underground Railroad will become part of the school curriculum for Ontario, which is fantastic.
And so what do you think that could mean moving forward for, kids now going through the education system, for adults looking for more information?
Well, they'll understand the diversity, and then they'll know if they want to travel, they want that staycation where they can come to. So down here in Niagara and participate in the Freedom Trail.
And, tourism is so important to the Niagara region. So for you as well, for this, this venture, what would you like to see moving forward for that?
I would like to see more people involved in the history and the development of the Niagara's Freedom Trail, because there's a lot of history out there. So that's what I try to do and have been doing. You want to build the tourism trail rather than tear it down.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me in studio today.
Thank you for having me.